We're here to idea everyone, to fire up your curiosity and connect you with the people and ideas that shape our world. Watch, listen, understand, connect, create. Let's move the human story forward together.
Hello and welcome to The Poetry of Science, a podcast which provides insight into new scientific research via the medium of poetry. I'm your host, Dr. Sam Illingworth, and each week I'll be introducing you to some of the latest scientific findings and sharing a selection of science-themed poetry. After all, we could all do with a little bit more poetry in our lives. In this episode, I'll be exploring new research which has found that the Pacific slope of Peru is greening, and that this is not good news. In whispers of twilight, the wind carries tales, murmurs of change, memories of rain that etch the canvas where life's colours sprawl. On the Pacific slope, a dance of light, greening, browning, ebbing, flowing. Unexpected patterns disrupt the night. Jaded tendrils climbing Andean spines, tracing sun-starved trails and weathered vines. Climates shift, seasons drift. Maps are drawn and lost, the land endures, held in the mountain's gentle sigh, the timeless story of our world. This poem is inspired by recent research published in the journal Remote Sensing, which used satellite data to reveal unexpected vegetation trends along the arid Pacific slope of Peru and Chile, shedding light on climate change impacts on these sensitive ecosystems. Climate, including factors such as temperature and rainfall, largely determines the kinds of plants that grow in a particular area. This relationship is studied using different models which categorise areas into different climate zones. These zones then help us understand what types of plants can grow in each region and how changes in climate might affect them. However, mountainous regions like the Andes in Peru and northern Chile are still not well understood. These areas are sensitive to small shifts in climate, and changes here can significantly impact local wildlife and ecosystems, which makes studying them very important. In this study, researchers used satellite imagery to track vegetation changes from 2000 to 2020 along the Pacific slope of Peru and northern Chile, uncovering trends of increasing greenery, i.e. greening, and areas becoming less green or barren, i.e. browning. The geographic pattern of greening did not match existing climate zone maps for the region. Trends in the coastal desert and high Andes aligned with climate zones, but the greening strip had an unexpected distribution. This work provides new insights into how climate change may be impacting diverse ecosystems in the sensitive arid and semi-arid environments along the Pacific slope in Peru and northern Chile. The Pacific slope is a critical region for Peru. As it supplies water for 2/3 of the country and produces most of its food. However, the swift changes in vegetation, water levels and ecosystems in this region will unavoidably affect both water and agricultural management strategies. Now that you've heard the science, let me read the poem to you again. In whispers of twilight, the wind carries tales, murmurs of change, memories of rain that etch the canvas where life's colours sprawl. On the Pacific slope, a dance of light, greening, browning, ebbing, flowing. Unexpected patterns disrupt the night. Jaded tendrils climbing Andean spines, tracing sun-starved trails and weathered vines. Climate shift, seasons drift, maps are drawn and lost, the land endures, held in the mountain's gentle sigh, the timeless story of our world. In this section of the podcast, I'd like to share a poem written by another poet on a topic related to the science that has been discussed so far. In this episode, I'll be reading Prophecy by Jules Supervielle, translated from French into English by Menisa Alvi. Jules Supervielle was a French-Uruguayan poet and writer known for his uniquely imaginative works that blend reality and fantasy. Born in Uruguay in 1884 and raised in France from a young age, Superville's poetry often reflects a sense of divided identity, straddling two worlds. His work, influenced by the symbolist movement, delicately explores themes of isolation, inner worlds, and the mystical undercurrents of everyday life. Despite his considerable contribution to 20th century French literature, Superville's deeply introspective and dreamlike poetry remains lesser known outside of French-speaking circles. Prophecy by Jules Superville. One day the earth will be just a blind space, turning night confused with day. Under the vast Andean sky there'll be no more mountains, not a rock or ravine, only one balcony will remain of all the world's buildings, and of the human mappa mundi, limitless sorrow. In place of the Atlantic Ocean, a little saltiness in the air, and a fish flying and magical with no knowledge of the sea. In a car of the 1900s, no road for its wheels, 3 girls of that time pressing onwards like ghosts in the fog. They'll peer through the door, thinking they're nearing Paris, when the odour of the sky grips them by the throat. Instead of a forest, there'll be one bird singing, which nobody will ever place, or prefer, or even hear, except for God, who, listening out, proclaims it a goldfinch. Thank you for listening to the Poetry of Science.
Thank you very much for being with us for this episode of the Idea Me Show. Idea Me is a global platform. Our mission is to move the human story forward by sharing knowledge of the future. You can find us on all major audio networks at www.radioideame.com, on YouTube and Vimeo. Please subscribe.